for one moment. For me, success with Doug Christie this year is, and I think Doug and Scott Perry would probably tell you the same thing. It's, can you start playing the brand of basketball that Doug wants them to play? That's that. I think it would perhaps beget wins, but B, with the Kings, and I know that Casey talks about this a lot. D'Lo and Casey coming up on the handoff in about 20 minutes, but I know he talks about this a lot, like just trying to win this year. But I also think if you're being realistic and you're Doug Christie, this is year one for you. You're at square one. And anything you can do that puts you in a better position to be successful in 2026 and 2027 and perhaps beyond, I think has to be the number one priority. So for me this year, my expectation for the Kings is not, can you make the play-in? Can you make the playoffs? Like, that would be cool. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But it's just, when we watch this team, do they look different? Can you tell that this has the outline of a Doug Christie team?
Okay, so like, we can talk about the roster being unbalanced and just completely, like, just not built correctly, all we want, right? But there's something else that I think that when we watch the summer league team and they are playing Doug Christie's brand of basketball, which is like chaotic, defensive, like in your face, playing passing lanes, stealing the ball, breakaway dunks, like all this stuff. We saw it. Like, it was really, really apparent what Doug Christie wants from his basketball team. But there is this dynamic in the NBA that happens, that when players reach a certain status and they're scorers or they're all-stars or whatever, they aren't asked to play harder. They're asked to play their game and to be really good at what they do, to make shots, to score a bunch of points. But very rarely do you go to like a 30-year-old shooting guard and say, hey, man, this season, I need you to play harder.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm just going to bring this up. When the Kings went out last season, they traded for Jake LaRavia. Jake LaRavia stood out like, just like right away, like, holy cow, look at that guy.
Yeah.
He's playing harder than everybody.
Yeah.
He's running all over the place. He's like causing chaos, right? Well, that's what Doug wants. But Jake LaRavia, as a player who's missed, 45% of the games he's played in as a pro and is looking to get another contract, it behooves him to like go out and play like his hair's on fire, right? Again, that's what Doug's going to want. But now you get to the regular season and you can't get veterans to all of a sudden play like their hair's on fire.
Yeah.
Especially guys who have been in the league forever doing specifically what they do. Like, it reminds me, like, Jamal Crawford years ago, he signed with the Portland Trailblazers instead of the Kings. It was literally on the last second on media day. He decides to sign with the Trailblazers instead of the Kings. And there was a press conference right afterwards that, Nate McMillan's like, yeah, we're gonna ask him to play some defense. It's like, hey, coach, that ain't me. Like, I don't do that. Like, well, no, you will here. Yeah, no, I won't. That's not what I do. What I do is score. Like, and that's kind of the mentality of basketball players, NBA players. Again, I'm not calling out Zach LaVine. He's 11 years into his career. If you expect him to go out there and play defense like Keon Ellis because Doug Christie is coaching him harder, you're on some sort of drug. Like, that's not going to happen. So that's my problem. It's like, hey, if Doug wants to play a certain style of basketball, and I will say that Domas sort of embodies what he wants. Like, the guy who beats up on people, who gets rebounds, who is physical, who, when you're done playing against Domantas Sabonis, then you go and sit in an ice bath.
It's effort. Because
you were being beat up the entire time. That's just not who most of the other players on this Kings team are. Like, I think there's a certain amount of physicality that Keegan Murray plays with. There's a certain amount of physicality that DeMar DeRozan plays with on the offensive end.
Definitely.
But I don't know how to judge Doug when the players you're going to go into this season with and you're asking to buy in are players who very well aren't going to be there a year or 2 years from now. And you're going to try to promote this style of play that is bare knuckle, knockdown, drag out, like 1990s New York Knicks style defense. When A, you don't have defensive players, B, you don't have the length and athleticism, 3, you don't have a true rim protector. Like, there are too many things that you're asking this group to do. And if it was a young team, it's like, okay, let's establish that now. Like when Dave Yeager took over the team in 2016, then they purged the entire roster, including Domantas Sabonis, Rudy Gay, Omri Caspi, Matt Barnes. They're all gone. And then you open up the next season and you've got 9 first and second year players. That's a team where you can establish a culture of we're going to outrun everybody. We're going to beat everybody up, which is exactly what Dave Yeager did in year 2 of that build.
Yeah.
That's when all of a sudden it's the team's running up and down the court and blowing the doors off of everybody. And you're like, wow, look at how fast they are. That's how you establish culture. What you don't do is establish that style of culture with a team that's got a bunch of 30-year-olds or 28-year-olds. So that's where I think that there's going to be a very difficult sort of reality here. And if guys don't play hard, I hope that Doug doesn't play them.
So that's just and that's just it. When you talk about, okay, because we're talking about Doug Christie specifically.
Yeah.
Doug Christie, the coach. If his hands are tied and he's got some edict from the front office or higher, or if, hey, this is just the way it works in an NBA locker room, Zach LaVine's going to play, DeMar DeRozan's going to play, Domantas Sabonis is going to play, all these guys are going to play no matter what, then then I guess it's just all on wins.
Yeah.
It's just all every bit of what Doug Christie's judged on in year 1 is wins. Like, and I know that I'm sure as people go, it's a bottom line business. It's always going to come down to win. I totally got it. I understand that. But if we're zooming out a little bit and getting away from the bottom line and trying to attach a little bit of nuance to the conversation, because if they go like, look, if they go 21-61, there's no measurement there that you're going to go, yeah, but Doug was awesome. If they're a disaster, that's a problem.
Yep.
But if they win 36-37, I think there's a pathway to go on. Yeah, but hey, man, they benched Zach LaVine because he was not doing what he needed to do. Or man, they benched DeMar DeRozan or brought him off the bench because Keon Ellis was just crushing it and they had to figure out a way to get him more minutes. So man, it was a tough decision, but good. Like, that's, I think, the kind of things I'm going to be looking for. And I think with the Kings specifically, and this goes back to what Lotus Prime said in the chat at youtube.com/ESPN1320, how he can't judge until he knows what the roster looks like. I think as the season progresses, I think the expectation for Doug is going to fluctuate quite a bit. Like with Kyle Shanahan, you got to make the playoffs, man. That's it for me. You could talk injuries, you could do this and that, but like, man, I don't know what to tell you at this point. That can't be an excuse every single time you have a losing season. At some point, you got to overcome that. There's going to be adversity. How do you overcome it?
Yeah.
So it's playoffs or bust for me. With Pete Carroll, a little bit the same way in terms of like, can you get these guys to compete and play really hard and establish that foundation we talked about? Can you do that? Like,
you didn't bring in a 73-year-old coach with a 5-year plan.
Correct. Exactly.
No.
With Doug, I think if they start out something like 10-2, 10-2 through their first month that they have. Let's say they're 10-2 through their first 12. The expectation dramatically shifts.
Oh, you're talking if they make it through the first, like what you said, 12 games at 10-2, you're now projecting them as like a middle of the pack playoff team.
Yes.
Like a 4 or 5 seed.
Yes.
Because the back end of their schedule is much simpler.
Right.
And I also, I think the scheduling in itself, it lends itself to a very like uncomfortable situation for the Kings because they could play well and come out of the first 19 games at 5-14. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's how bad the schedule is for them. Their first 19 games, brutal. Like it's very, very difficult, right? Even the easier games that they have, most of them are on the second night of back-to-back and stuff. So you could get done with that first 19 games and basically your season could be over at that point. And now it's like, okay, how do you scrape together, try to get back close to 500 by the All-Star break? Because after the All-Star break, it lightens up big. But if you're 8 games under going into the All-Star break and you're 12 games out of, a playoff spot, not a play-in spot, but a playoff spot, you're like 12 games out. Like that's a team that needs to blow it up.
Yeah.
That's a team that needs to trade everybody and then finish the season with Reno and Nate Clifford and Keon Ellis. And if Devin Carter's still there and, Keegan Murray. That's what you need to be playing the whole final 30 games.
What's funny about this conversation and expectations with Doug is if that happens, I think you'd get a much clearer picture of what Doug Christie looks like as a coach than if you did. Okay, they're getting to the trade deadline at they're the 9 seed and 4 games out of the 6.
Yeah.
That you're going to get a much different picture. And that's why I say, I think the expectation for me is going to change quite a bit. For now, I know that we're going to say this a lot and it may even become a little bit of a joke at some point, like it's culture. But I think that's what you're going to have because we've talked about the unbalanced roster. We've talked about the length of size, the lack of size, athleticism. We talked about all that. But I think for right now, it's just like, can you get these dudes playing hard?
It's a standard that they have to play to. They have to play to a specific standard. And if they can't do that, they need to go. Like specific players. And it's about effort. It's about energy. It's about that stuff.
Yeah.
Physicality. It's not just going to be about wins and losses. Like, hey, are you showing me that you're learning and that you're going to function as part of this group moving forward? Because that's the only thing that you can do. If you're trying to establish a culture with a team that half of the players won't be here in 2 years, it's really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we have 60 seconds.